6 o'clock, you're on. Have fun, be safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of Dalton Throws at least 6 haymakers, totally blows himself up and can hardly pedal to the line. This is pretty much a rendition of what not to do when racing bikes. So we are out here, this is Wednesday night, Hunte Parkway training. And what we've got is we have this hot dog style course. It's 2.81 miles in length, a U-turn at each end. There are 2 kickers on this course. One is around 3.5%, 4%. The other one is about 5%. Basically what that means is you're going really fast one direction downhill, and then everybody is going as hard as they can up the other side, right back up that kicker. So tonight I decided that my goal was to basically sit back, let some people get off the front, and then hopefully bridge to one of those groups and see if we can make a break stick. I was not intending on contesting the field sprint. If I had the legs at the end, that would be cool. But overall, I figured I probably wouldn't, especially if I was going to try and make almost every move that went. And so there are some big do's and don'ts when you are trying to do that, and I can walk through pretty much all of those tonight, since I did just about everything possible to try and make it stick. So without further ado, we will just go ahead and dive right in. So diving right in, you can see here we're about a lap and a half in, and we're just sort of soft pedaling along here. I see this as sort of a good opportunity. There are 2 guys off the front who I know nothing about. They could be fast riders, they could be willing to work with me. I know Zach is willing to work with me actually, so I put in the attack here, and as I go by Zach, I see he has a couple bike length gap. So I yell at him, jump on my wheel, let's go, let's go, let's go, and I want to bridge to these 2 guys. So now as I'm coming across, I see that Zach is on my wheel. That's perfect. He's the only guy there. He didn't drag the Peloton with him. So I basically want to attach to these 2 guys. As I'm rolling by them, I yell at them, let's go, let's keep the pace going. We keep the speed up. We're doing 35 miles an hour. Hopefully nobody's chasing. Didn't look like the group was chasing. This is a good opportunity. So as I come by these guys, I tell them, get on our wheel, let's go. It's 2 of us. So there's Zach and myself. Zach is on my wheel here, and basically I look back, and unfortunately, those 2 other guys are not on Zach's wheel. So we get stuck, it's just the 2 of us. I'm willing to drive it to the corner and see if I can commit to it, see if anybody else comes along. But at this point, we make the corner, we turn around, and I realize basically the Peloton was plenty motivated to chase us back. So I sit up, I know it's not gonna stick, I'm not gonna waste my energy, and Zach and I can rotate together for a long time, but it's likely not gonna stay away till the end of the race. That attack, blatantly unsuccessful. Not a big deal, it happens, you know, things get chased back. But I actually want to draw our attention to this setup right here. So I'm actually on the front. I was initially driving the pace. I kind of sat up because I've been pulling for a while. Nobody rolled by me, everybody was content with sitting in. Well, my teammate, and actually one of the PRT guys, one of the other race teams that's pretty prevalent in this race, I think about half the field is probably PRT at this point. Those 2 guys roll off the front. Now, key point here, I'm not gonna chase my teammate. So I'm sitting on the front, this PRT guy comes up to my right, he's also noodling along. We're both just sitting there, waiting for at least a solo rider or somebody to bridge, to chase, something. Nothing is happening. As you can see, these guys are building a gap, and they're doing maybe 21, 22 miles an hour, which is only a mile or 2 an hour faster than what we're doing, right? It's not taking them much effort, they're really not doing much. If they put in a big dig here, they could easily disappear around that corner. So finally, these guys come along, and some people are willing to drive it up the hill. They realize that I'm not going to chase anymore, so they decide that they're going to go ahead and track these guys down. If these 2 guys would have put in a good rotation and started, you know, really diving in, then they could have established a great gap, honestly. I don't know if they would have stayed away. We still got 12 miles to go, but it was a good effort. Really quickly, I just wanted to share kind of a quick move here that Max actually does I thought was really interesting. So we come around this corner, and the group that we're in actually doesn't stay on the wheels of the front 10 to 15 riders. So Max puts in this pretty hard dig here to make sure that everybody behind us also works. I take advantage of that, and I go ahead and follow his wheel. I slide up and then just sort of find a good point and positioning in the Peloton here to be sitting top 10, 15 wheels. So super important that you got to make sure everybody behind you works when you have to work. Now we're 9 miles into the race. We've been going hard at it for a while. There have been quite a few attacks. This guy goes around the right side of my teammate here. What I thought was interesting is I'm gonna jump. There's a couple guys up the road already, so I go ahead and I follow him. Now, you can see from Zach's camera here, thanks for the footage by the way, that we're establishing a pretty good gap. Now I look back and I see that Zach and some other guys are actually chasing, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll up to this group. Now, I'm approaching this group, I'm getting pretty close, I'm about to make connection. Well, what I didn't realize is that there's an additional group off the front of these 2 or 3 riders, and that's actually the lead group. My thoughts are, I realize that there's a couple strong guys in that group ahead, and so I'm gonna put in a dig and get up to this group of 3 riders. As soon as I make contact though, I hope to roll through and maybe keep driving the same pace and work with these guys, they all sit up. And that's super unfortunate because I think that that group, if I would have worked with those guys, was probably the most promising one, and I could have worked with those guys to the end. When I did come around them though, I want to make sure I put in a pretty big dig when they're sitting up, so that way the peloton's still chasing behind, and they actually have to close the gap between me and them. Now as I get closer to the corner here, I sort of just sit up. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure they're gonna catch and bring me back. And so I didn't want to put too much into this, especially getting halfway through the race. I am really excited about this part of the race. This is where we actually really start racing, in my opinion. We are 13 miles in. We've got about 5.5 miles to go left on this. You see this guy actually attacks right here, and this is where stuff starts to get really interesting. People are willing to make some moves. So I'm not actually trying to chase this back yet. My thought process today was to let somebody get off the front, roll back to 5th or 6th wheel, and then hopefully attack across that and then bridge and work with those people to get to the end. So what you'll realize here is this guy goes off the front. I kind of let him go on the front. Nobody's chasing. Really not a big deal to me. I'm hoping to slide back here anyway, but nobody is rolling around me. And that's kind of unfortunate. We're coming through 2 laps to go here, and now we brought him back. Well, the thing is nobody really wants to put in the effort to pull. When nobody wants to put in the effort to pull and everybody sits up, that leads to problems. And the problem is that people like Zach or other riders in the group will do exactly what is happening right now. And you see this momentum coming at me, full bore. Zach puts in a huge dig here, goes flying right by all 4 of us, and there's absolutely nothing we can do to cover that. So now I have to wait and hope that somebody is willing to chase it. If nobody's willing to chase it, then we can sit up and he might just ride off by himself. This is actually kind of a good thing for me because I'm thinking maybe I can bridge a little bit later if nobody is willing to bring him back. Luckily, this rider in front of me, he's willing to sort of put in a little bit of a dig here also and try and chase him back. So we actually do. So here you can see we're sort of approaching, we're on the downhill. Zach is barely hanging off the front and we're just now making contact with him with these 3 or 4 riders here. So I'm in a kind of a good position here. I'm inside, I'm sheltered from the little bit of wind there is tonight. And I see that Zach sort of sits up, so I think this is kind of a good opportunity even though we are coming downhill. So I step on it and I throw another attack. That's about the time that I realize that another strong rider, Larry, is actually off the front by himself. I'm thinking maybe we can link up, we can start to work together, but I think that he's actually been out there for a while. So he's pretty tired. It seems like as soon as I make contact with him, I look back and I realize that pretty much the whole group is chasing full bore. There's gonna be no reprieve here, and we are not gonna get away from this group. So Larry and I, we sort of just hang out, and that brings us to the final lap. So this is coming to the final lap. This is gonna be a good one. A lot of interesting stuff happens here also. We're coming around the final corner, and these 4 or 5 guys in front, they're not really putting in any big efforts. This is just typical cornering. And there's a guy way off the front. I don't know if you can see the red tail light up there. I see that as an opportunity, and I'm hoping to bring 1 or 2 guys with me, bridge to that guy, and we're gonna ride this thing to the end. So I put in the dig here. I do 1,000+ watts again for like the 5th time, which is probably not the smartest thing I've ever done. And luckily, I did drag 1 other guy with me. He slides in right here, and we're working pretty well together. This actually happened before the downhill, so our gap is much larger this time because we're not actually doing 38 miles an hour when we come into this. So now we can actually gain some speed before we take that downhill, and hopefully we can just maintain this gap to the finish. So we're just rotating along, we're working to bridge. We actually bridge up to this guy, and I tell him that we're coming by him, and I'm hoping that he jumps on. Unfortunately, I look back here, I realize the 3rd rider, he didn't stay on, and I think we had a bit of a gap between he and us. So I went ahead and I've taken my pull now, and we're basically just hoping that we can drive this thing to the finish. maybe it'll stick to the end. This is basically just a sufferfest, and we're going all out, all the way to the corner. We still have a great gap here, and I'm hoping that it sticks. We're coming into the final corner here, and I really want to just put in a last-ditch effort coming around this corner to see if I can't reestablish a gap. We've got plenty of space still, and actually, you'll be able to see from Zach's perspective. Basically, me and the other rider, we're coming around the corner, and there we go. And so I'm putting in a pretty big effort at the bottom of this hill just to make sure we maintain that established gap, and hopefully we can get away. But what you're seeing right now is the chase effort is absolutely on in the peloton. I think Max put in a big attack basically right out of the corner, and he's digging pretty deep. Plenty of other riders are giving chase here. You can see that we're doing, 26, 27, 28 miles an hour up ahead, up the road, and ultimately the peloton is probably easily doing 32, 33, so they're gonna track us down in no time flat. Basically, that's what you're about to see. So this is really the last rotation, and I'm on this guy's wheel, and we're charging hard up the hill. This is the second to last hill. We're less than half a mile out here, and I'm really digging in, doing 500 watts, trying to stay away. And about right now, I realize that the peloton has caught. They have drug us back, and we're probably not gonna stay away to the line. Now we're a quarter mile away from the line, and we just get absolutely blown by all these guys. I absolutely did not have the legs left to sprint this or contest the sprint, so unfortunately I watch everybody ride by. I am cooked. I'm sitting here at 182 BPM, maxed out at like 185, and pretty sure that's about as close as my max gets to max these days. There are a couple big takeaways from today. One key point is that I think that while the attacks made sense in my head at the time, attacking on the downhill was a poor decision. When you attack on a downhill and you're already at a really high speed, you can't really put in much gap between yourself and the group. So when that happens, you might get a 5 or 6 second gap, but you put in a huge effort to get that 5 or 6 second gap. Whereas if you were to attack somewhere else on the course, we have plenty of uphill sections to do that. You can put in less effort for longer, and then you can probably establish, 15, 20, 30 seconds. That's how you get the larger gaps. And I think that you kind of saw that on the last lap. I went ahead and tried to bridge that rider in the flats, and that was almost a successful breakaway. We almost stayed to the line. Unfortunately, just didn't have the legs to do it. Everybody in the group was pretty motivated to come chase us down and get us, and ultimately it ended in a field sprint, and I won't spoil that. Special shout out to Zach as well for letting me use his footage for the third party perspective there. I think that's really interesting to watch back on and be able to reflect on my own performance and realize what I did and didn't do right. If you enjoyed this, or you have your own thoughts on things I could have done better here, more than willing to hear that. I'm not the expert on bike racing, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Comment below. Let me know if you see anything that I can work on. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that video. I appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and hit the like button for me. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit subscribe also. Anyway, take care, and I hope to see you guys again soon.